Welcome to the Defense and Aerospace Report. I'm Vago Muradian here at the Surface Navy Association's annual conference outside Washington, D.C., #1 gathering for surface warfare leaders from around the world. Our coverage here is sponsored by GE Marine and Leonardo DRS, and it's our honor to be talking to the N96 United States Navy Rear Admiral Gene Black, who is the Director of Surface Warfare. Sir, great jacket, tremendous presentation, and you guys have a very, very impressive plan.
Well, thank you very much. I'm excited about the portfolio. It's compelling, it's moving with urgency, and I think you saw it dovetails right in with where CNO said we need to go. When you look at our unmanned vessels, we're looking at a large one probably to help us, give us magazine depth. Right. When you look at mediums, I'm thinking sensors, decoys, deception. I'm thinking of a Toyota Tacoma. What can I put in the bed of that, and what am I willing to risk? What information can I get from that sensor that is worth risking it? And because I have no sailors on it, I'm able to take more risk.
You know, this is an incredible surface renaissance. I talked to your predecessor, Admiral Boxall, last year about it. You know, you've got the new frigate that's in play. You've got the Flight 3 DDG, the latest iteration of the very successful Burke class, the world's greatest warship. You're looking now at that unmanned portfolio. Do you have any sense of clarity yet on range, speed, magazine depth, you know, how close you would tether it? I mean, some of the ConOps that go with it. At this point, how much of that has been shaped and how much of it has not yet been developed?
When I think how we're approaching it, it's going to be in blocks. So right now we've got some prototypes. As we develop proficiency and they start to do the things we need them to do, operating in the fleet, just showing they can navigate, stay with us, do what we tell them to do, then we're looking at, okay, what automation might help us? What if we put a VLS launcher in there? It's a long way to go to get there, and we've got a lot of things to figure out, as you saw by some of the great questions that I took from the audience. But overall, the block development, if you look at the way Aegis was developed, build a little, test a little, learn a lot, that's where we're going to go. And the beauty of the unmanned vessels is, while they're not cheap, they're certainly not in the billion-dollar price range of warships. And I am just very, very enthusiastic about their potential and what they can bring a fighting force.
There are those who say that the Navy has spent some time actually thinking about this problem, but hasn't done as good of a job articulating the macro vision. You know, what's the vision? The Undersea Force has said it's like dull, dangerous, dirty work. How would you sort of bumper sticker how it is you want to use these systems? Because as I said, you know, while somebody was asking you about gunfire, so amphibious gunfire support, you came up with, hey, why don't we actually drop a 5-inch mount on one of these things and actually sail it a lot closer to the beach than we would do, for example, with a DDG?
So right now, conceptually, I think a small or a medium USV, I'm thinking decoy, deception, and sensor. When I think of larges, I'm thinking what capability can you bring? Probably an adjunct magazine. At the third or fourth block of this, when I think about dull, dangerous work, I'm thinking, could we virtualize the combat system and do BMD with an unmanned surface vessel in some of off of Hawaii or off of Guam? Because as you know, in the ballistic missile system, there's not a lot of decision making. The system kind of dictates when you would engage. Now I don't tie up a multi-mission warship on a mission that most likely we'll never use. Now that's off of the horizon, that's years away. But I think we can get there in a measured approach, build a little, test a little, learn a lot, and that's what we're going to do.
Talk to us about the large surface combatant. Obviously, work is ongoing now to try to shape what that cruiser destroyer replacement looks like. You're kind of out of space on Flight 3. DDG 1000 was a great experiment, but you're building only 3 of them. How does the unmanned equation change what that manned surface platform looks like at the end of the day?
It would be a sensor that would serve that platform or ship as well as any other ship. We haven't really thought in terms of large surface combatant married up with unmanned, although now that you mention it, it's probably worth considering. When I think about the ship, what am I trying to do? I need some range, I need space, weight, power, and cooling to keep it relevant for the next 30 to 40 years. I definitely need a directed energy weapon, I'm not sure which one. As you put those together, you're probably looking at a new hull form to have the size to accommodate a large missile and directed energy. But when I look at radars, SPY-6 is just a remarkable piece of engineering. It's just incomparable. the baseline 10 software. We're going to have wrung that out, so I'll have much less risk with that combat system, that radar integration. If we get to the integrated combat system, it'll be a relatively straightforward software integration of a laser as a sensor or a weapon into that combat system. And now, integrated power, I'm getting the most efficient ship, operating at the most efficient speeds for long periods of time, and then I get the energy magazine I need for that direct energy. So what am I got to figure out? I got to figure out hull form, I got to figure out integrated power, I got to figure out directed energy. We're looking at all those pieces and parts because you think we'll de-risk with the radar and the heart of the combat system, the Aegis Baseline 10.
What's the integrated kind of combat system and combat grid you need, not just to integrate everything in the Navy, but then integrate everything that the Navy has along with the rest of the Joint Force?
Yeah, that is a wonderful question. How are we going to get there, and what's my vision? The way I see this, and again, you saw that I'm not the most technically proficient person out there.
I think it was more the fault of the microphone, sir, you were dealing with in technical proficiency.
And not the operator. I think the bottom line, though, is when I look at the speed and the power of the software and the computing, and I look what we're doing with data, I think there's an opportunity out there with the right investments, if we break enough paradigms, that we could stitch together all the information and data flowing from sensors and ships to be able to put weapons where we need them. It's sort of the underlay for the Naval Tactical Grid. The Naval Tactical Grid should plug into the Joint Force and everyone else. We should be able to receive information from the Joint Force and share it. It's a stretch goal, but when you look at how far we've come with computing, when you look at what 20 years ago, if someone had said BMD on a fleet of ships, it was thought to be unachievable. Look where we are. I think we can do the same. I think we can do it faster.
Two questions, because I know you got to go. One, weapons. You want to put a multiplicity of weapons to give that kind of distributed lethality concept that Admiral Roden was talking about, Admiral Boxall was talking about, now you're talking about. And yet, at the same time, we're still not fielding, for example, the long-range surface weapon at the speed, for example, that the PACOM Admiral Davidson wants. Talk to us about the distributed firepower, the kind of ranges you're going to need, because generally the higher the range, the more expensive the round. How are you going to break some of these cost curves to give you those longer arms, but do it in actually an economical way, given you're going to need volume fires?
I'm getting range out of Maritime Strike Tomahawk. I'm getting range out of SM-6. They're within 5 years, and they will give us capabilities that we will be very, very pleased with. I can't go into details for obvious reasons. We are looking at some experimental weapons that would give us a much greater reach, but there's a considerable amount of work that has to be done to do that.
And also, last question, which is on training. Talk to us about how you're accelerating training across the piece to give this great power, whether it's on demand, shoreside, or the multiplicity of other investments you guys are making to get those skill levels up.
Okay, so the stave training is for that individual sailor. We've got a classroom, we have an instructor, we have a virtual tool, and we have a lab. 70% of our courses, we're dovetailed. It is part of Ready Relevant Learning. It is bearing fruit now. The live virtual constructive that I talked about, is we advance that to the next level. We advance that to all the tubs, all the aircraft flight simulators, and put it all in. We can then do the most high-end missions. Our partners can't see our competitors can't see what we're doing because we're doing it virtually. And B, as you heard me talk about, we can rehearse some of these very, very difficult tactics, techniques, and procedures that don't cost us anything in a trainer. So when we do it for real, we can expend ordnance and really learn at the speed and without the rookie mistake that can be so costly.
Sir, thanks very much. Rear Admiral Gene Black, the Director of Surface Warfare. And sir, great jackets, by the way, big, very high demand.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. I'm so proud that the community's gone this way, and I'm looking forward to the day when my youngest daughter, who looks like she's going to be a SWO, puts hers on in a couple years.
That's awesome. Even the Marines want it nowadays.
Everybody wants to be a SWO.
Thanks very much, sir.